As promised on the course, we indicated that we would give you a post-course brief just to set you on the tracks with regard to project management. If you recall, we did simulate a PMO meeting, that's the Project Management Office meeting, which would have taken place during one of the recurring meetings that were planned in MS Project. If you recall, the recurring meetings are inserted above the first phase or deliverable and are usually run on a weekly basis, of course depending on the timescale of the project itself. So, how do we run that PMO meeting? This is as the project is in fact being tracked. The PMO meeting should probably be run along the lines of what we call the iron triangle, or more traditionally, the triple constraints. During that meeting, the schedule, the cost, and the scope should be discussed, each in turn, in terms of the rules of good meetings. We recommend that each are discussed in turn without slippage across to the other, but of course there can be a cross discussion as they are all interrelated. We use the iron triangle, or alternatively referred to as the triple constraints, as a guide for our PMO meeting. Remember, in British parlance, it's time, cost and quality, but in American parlance, it's time, cost and scope. Time, of course, refers to the schedule and the timeline of the project, and as the project is being tracked, the various issues around it's being tracked on the original baseline, bearing in mind any problems that have occurred with regard to being behind schedule or ahead of schedule. Obviously, the critical tasks versus the non-critical tasks have to be discussed. And the reason for that is that resources can be borrowed from non-critical tasks to accelerate the critical tasks should they be under threat. Then, of course, costs are also discussed. And that refers to resources specifically, and usually earned value, that is, including things like actual cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work scheduled, the schedule performance index, the cost performance index, the schedule variance, and the cost variance. These are issues that must be discussed. The figures must be on hand, and as we learnt in the course, those can be ascertained by exposing the relevant table. Click View, Tables, More Tables, Earned Value. Then finally, the quality or scope of the project must be discussed. Remember, in terms of all three of these, no motion, no discussion. So if the motion is that a certain task be shortened or a certain resource be swapped out, then that is discussed and then a resolution is reached. Look at the following meeting and examine ways in which these things are discussed. There we go. So the PMO meeting is happening here on the 30th of June, Friday the 30th of June, 2022, and we're monitoring this project. The first thing on the agenda is, of course, schedule, and I notice that we are on track as per the black line. Let's just have a look at the baseline. Let's just show the baseline. So Gantt chart format, and I'm going to set the baseline right here so I can see it. Are we on the baseline as we planned it according to our charter and our scope statement? Yes, it seems we are on the baseline. Are we due to finish the project on date? Yes, on the 5th of August. Looks good. All right. However, I do notice there are some resource issues, but we'll get to that when we deal with resources. In terms of the schedule, are we on the baseline? How about we show a progress line? So let's show a progress line. Progress line as follows. Progress line will be on current date, not on an alternative date. Although project manager might sometimes like to make it a date ahead of today, just to create a bit of scare, but really we're looking there
and looks like we're on track. If that line is vertical, we are on track. If that line leans backwards anyway, we're not on track. Sorry, a report has just come in. We're not up to track with research the market. It seems that we are a day behind. All right. Oh, so we're not there. So we are only not with. Oh, look, we are behind. See, the line is now leaning backwards because we're behind. We should be up to Friday the 30th, and we're not up to Friday the 30th. In fact, the guys haven't been working hard enough yet. We're still on track for the baseline, but the actual progress is behind. All right. So we're looking at this as a problem. Is this a critical task? Yes, it is a critical task. You will notice that it is red. It is a critical task. If I turn that off, they all go blue. But if I turn that on, the critical tasks go red. So what we need to do is decide what we're going to do about it. Who are the resources? Well, there's only one resource, and it is Researcher 1. We notice later that we do have a problem with Researcher 1 as well over here. So clearly he's going to be overworked or she's going to be overworked. So we need to be careful with this. But we'll get to that with resources. So what do we propose to actually get this sorted out? What we need to do is someone needs to go and speak to that resource. Someone get on the phone right now, speak to him or her. Can he or she catch up? We need this job to be finished by the end of day tomorrow. So they need to double up on their work before we get this done for tomorrow. Remember, what is their task? It is research the market. Okay, all right. So let's have a look at the schedule on that. There's the start date, the finish date. Everything seems to be okay, but the problem is we need them to catch up. All right, so we are leaning back. So speak by the end of the meeting. Hopefully they will have confirmed that they will catch up. Any other issues that we need to look at? Why don't we throw another resource into this? Okay, all right, one of our cheaper resources. But that is going to have an implication for costs, obviously. All right, so let's have a look at our resources, even the over-allocated ones. Okay, all right, and see, okay, so we've got a facilitator there. Someone knows of a student worker. It just doesn't take a whole lot, so we're going to add a student worker over here. She only comes in at 50 Rand an hour, okay, and she's just doing an elective for her honors degree. She wants to get involved in research. Well, that's fantastic. So we have a student worker here. This is clearly going to be something we can add, all right, over here. And so what we do here is we add that to this particular task. Let's put her in there. Let's move this to the side. Okay, all right, and in moving this to the side, what we do is we got start and finish over there. Let's add the student worker. Look, we've got the researcher, there's student worker. Okay, will we be promised that if the student worker, okay, look what's happened. MS Project has automatically reduced the duration of that task. That's effort driven. I'm not entirely happy with that. Okay, what was it? Was it 1 week? I think it was 1 week. Okay, let's put it back at 1 week. All right. So we're back on the baseline, but at least now we can update so that because of that student worker, we will be back up to, let's say, 50%. Okay. All right. Of the task. No, 75% done. Sorry, I'm choosing the wrong one. I should be on research the market. Let's choose research the market over there. All right, 75%. Oh, there we go. So we're only slightly behind because the student worker apparently is going to start working and she will catch the job up. You see now it's not so dangerous. It's slightly behind. Notice, in fact, it's gone blue because it's virtually finished and now it's no longer critical. Okay, that's why it's gone blue. All right. So we've dealt with our schedule. Schedule's on track. We're okay with our schedule. Next item on the agenda, resources. Okay, so here we do have a problem. Yeah, we do have a problem. But the problem isn't now, even though we've dealt with a particular problem now. The problem isn't now. The problem is coming up in a week's time. Next week, when we have that meeting, we're going to have a problem with our resources over here. Because, according to this, the resources are over-allocated. Why? Because Researcher 1 is required to work on task 3.2 and on task 3.3 at the same time. Let's just have a look at how much work he's doing. All right, this is the same guy who's got problems today, by the way. So he's already tired. That's going to be a disaster for him. Let's look at resource usage. On Internet Researcher 1, there we go. And Internet Search, let's go to that particular, all right, let's go to that particular task over there, all right, and that task over there, we'll go to brainstorms over there, editing, let's scroll to that task. Okay, let's see where there are problems. No, Internet Search, let's see if there are problems there with Internet Search. Editing, let's go to that task. Here's the problem. See, he's working 8 hours on that day, and he's working 8 hours the same day. So we've got to use one of our 5 methods to sort this problem out. Remember, 2 days ago we discussed the 5 methods. All right. Remember Sander recommended changing the time schedule, I think it was, or increasing the resources. And then one of you, I think it was Sika, I'm not too sure, recommended extending, just adding another resource. Okay. But we could also force this person to work overtime. So he works, but there are legal issues around that. Eh? 8 hours in the day, 8 hours at night. Okay. All right. But look, the 16 hours is in red. That's where the problem is. Let's go also look back at the problem and see where we can show capacity. So clearly, guys, this is on the wall or on the screen, and you're looking at the problem and you're sorting the problem out now with the PMO. All right. So we go back here. We split the screen. So we go to view. We split the screen. And let's look at the detail of the problem. Let's click on the bottom here and activate the resource graph. I want to know about how many units I am short. Okay, so let's look at the resource graph. There we go. Clearly on the 7th and 8th of July, 7th of 8th of July, here's today. This is next week. 7th of 8th of July, I am short of 1 unit. So what I'm going to do is the same thing as I did with the other problem for today, which is to throw another resource in. If we throw another resource in and replace the researcher on days on 7th and 8th, we should be okay. So let's go and see. We can go and change that. We go across here, and for Internet Search, I'm going to take my researcher out and I'm going to put the student worker in. It's a bit of a risk. Okay. Problem gone. Okay. It's a bit of a risk, but we're going to take risks. Clearly, I have 1 unit, etc. available on Internet Search. I'm okay. There we go, 1 unit, 1 unit. And there's a problem. We may as well sort it out later. Look, there's a problem later. All right. And the problem later is writing the second draft. Let me see who's to blame this time. Okay. Don't tell me. It's the researcher again. I don't know. Scroll to task. Let's see. All right. No, this time it is the writer. Okay. All right. Not the facilitator, the writer. Let's go. Writer. Okay. So on those days, 25, 26, 27 July, I'm short of 1 unit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to once again load the student worker. Okay. That should sort the problem out. Remember, we're part of the triple constraints. We're dealing with resources at the moment. Okay. All right. And if we go back here, we're going to take the writer out and we're going to put the student worker in. Okay.